going to walk you through the framing process for the projects from the book. These are all some of the decor pieces that were created for the book, and all these patterns are in the book if you'd like to stitch them for yourselves. But also you can use this framing technique for your own embroidery projects. So today I'm going to show you how I framed the pieces for the book, and we're going to demonstrate it with one of the projects from the book, which was the broad-billed hummingbird. And as you can see, this is a three-dimensional piece. It's got the wing and it has padded stump work. So we really want it to kind of pop out of the frame. The frame I chose for this was this vintage frame. I removed the glass because, like I said, when we have it framed, we want it to really kind of pop out and stand out, like as if it's going to fly off. So the other things that we'll need for this for framing is we're going to need a mat board, and you can purchase this at a lot of craft stores. A mat board, you want to look for, the color. I go with white so that, a darker color mat board might show through the fabric depending on how transparent it is. So I always choose white just so we don't have any color distortion. And you want to look for acid free. Acid free is important because it keeps your piece from yellowing over time or having any sort of issues over time, like cardboard. You don't want to use cardboard or anything like that if it's not acid free, because it can yellow over time and it can affect the archival quality of your embroidery. Okay, so beyond the mat board, I'm going to have a pencil, okay, for tracing the shape of what, for the inner part of the frame. You need scissors, and I'm going to use chenille needles. You can also use tapestry needles, something with a larger hole, because we're going to be framing it with pearl cotton. This is DMC's pearl cotton in size 8, and it comes on a little ball like this, and you can also find this at most craft stores in your embroidery section. I like using this instead of like sewing thread or any other kind of thread because it's a little bit thicker and it's a little bit sturdier. So now we're going to create the mat board piece that we're going to secure the embroidery over, and it's going to become the backing for our frame. Okay, so the first thing we do is, if you flip your frame over, and this is true like all frames, you're going to have a wider, like a margin here. And so if I was to trace this circle, this would just give me the diameter of the inner circle, right? But I want my mat board to be a little bit bigger than that, so it will fit in here without falling through. Okay, so I am going to trace this, but I'm going to add a small margin onto the end of it, around the perimeter of it. So first we're just going to trace. Okay, so like I said, if I was to cut this out and use it, it would fall right through. Okay, so we actually need to add, and we can just kind of freehand this, a very small margin of about 1/2 centimeter maybe. Okay, it doesn't have to be more than that because our fabric's actually going to add a little bit of bulk to it, so we want to make sure it will fit in here. So just about 1/2 centimeter all around, and you can kind of eyeball it. You don't need to precisely measure it. Okay, so once I've traced my mat board, I'm going to cut it out, and I just use scissors, but if you want to be more precise, you could use, X-Acto knife or something like that. So we will cut this out, and this is what we'll end up with, okay? So we will have a mat board, and we just want to make sure before we actually start framing it that it's going to fit inside the frame, okay? So you're going to pop it into the back. Oops, I have my edges here, hold on. Yep, and it fits. And the important thing is it doesn't fall through, okay? So we want to make sure it's the right size, and there's a little bit of an edge left so that we can, it can wiggle around a little bit, because we want the fabric to not add too much bulk so where it won't fit. Okay, so if it has a little wiggle room, that's perfect. Okay, so for this next step, you need to remove your embroidery from the hoop and just kind of pop it out. All right, you can see it's got a few little kind of creases from when it's been in the hoop. You can iron this out if you'd like. Really, it's not necessary unless it's super wrinkly, because when you attach it to your mat board, you're going to be pulling and stretching and lacing it on the backside so that it gets all those wrinkles out. If you want to pre-treat it by just ironing in it before you do that, you can definitely do that. Okay, so for this next stage, we're going to get ready to lace this embroidery over the mat board. Okay, and I'm using just chenille needles. You can also use the tapestry needles, just something with a large enough eye so that the cotton, pearl cotton, will fit through it easily. Okay. Okay, so for the amount of cotton that we want probably about 24 inches, which seems like a lot, but we're going to be doing a running stitch along the perimeter of this and cinching it tight. So we want to make sure we have enough to go around that without running out, because if you run out, you kind of have to start all over and cut a longer piece. So we want to start with what we know is going to be definitely, a bit more than we probably need. So I'm going to tie a knot on one end, and I'll probably just double it just to make sure it's secure. We don't want it to slip through when we're tugging and pulling at the end. Okay, so thread your needle, and you're going to flip your embroidery over. Okay, and just to get an idea of where we want our mat board. Our mat board is actually, in this case, it fits pretty much where the hoop had been. So I'm going to use that as kind of a guideline for where to place it. Okay, and I'm going to start by taking my needle and going through the back side of this. And we're going to do a running stitch. Okay, so we're going to now come back this way, and we're going to go around the entire perimeter of our embroidery. And we're doing this about an inch away from the edge of the mat board. Okay, so about halfway through our 2-inch or so, 2.5-inch perimeter of fabric here. So just back and forth, and this is called, again, a running stitch. You want to make sure that when you're doing this, you don't get any tangles or knots, because if you do, it's not going to allow you to cinch the fabric together at the end. And your stitches actually can be kind of large here. Okay, they don't have to be perfect, tiny little stitches. In fact, these are a couple centimeters long, but you do want them evenly spaced. Okay, so you can see we've gone full circle, and we're coming back through right where, almost, not exactly, but close to where we started. Okay, and I'm going to pull my last stitch, and I'm actually ending on the inside here. Okay, so I'm going to place my hand on the mat board to keep it secured and keep it from moving around. We want it to be centered on our embroidery, and we're going to pull gently. I want to tug quickly or too hard, and it's going to cinch and gather the fabric. Now, before we move on to lacing, I'm going to leave this attached. Okay, before we move on to lacing, I'm just going to flip it over and make sure, and you're going to see it's going to be very wrinkled, and that's totally fine. We're going to get those wrinkles out. Okay, you're going to just check and make sure you have it centered the way you like it. Okay, and you can kind of use your frame just to make sure, yep, that's exactly how I want it to look. So now we're going to go on to lacing the back side, and that's going to remove all these wrinkles and make it nice and tight and presentable. So flipping your embroidery back over, you can continue on. If you have still like an excess of cotton, the pearl cotton on your needle, you can keep working with that, okay? If you have run out of pearl cotton, you can tie off your end and start a new strand, okay? And we'll probably end up using a couple strands anyways. So we're going to just use for right now what I have left on here, and we're going to, I'm going to go directly across from where I ended. I'm going to come under here, underneath the excess fabric, but on top of the mat board, and I'm going to pull the needle through here, okay? And we're going to pull it tight. You can see as I do that, it's tightening the fabric, okay? And I'm going to continue doing this. I'm just going to loop it across at angles, and as I do it, I'm going to gently pull the fabric tight. Okay, I'm going to just, again, go across. And each time, just gently pull. We want to kind of alternate where we come out each time. You can see I'm starting to run out. I think I have enough for maybe one more, and then we're going to tie it off. Okay, I had enough to come back through one more time. And I'm just going to pierce this right here. And just tie it off. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and trim that. Now, this is not enough to get all the wrinkles out. So we're going to repeat this process. We're going to continue lacing the backside with a new strand. And I cut it again like 24 to 36 inches long, just to give us a good length to work with. And we're going to start anywhere we haven't already gone back and forth. So I'm just going to pick a side. And again, we come through the inside of the hoop between the fabric and the mat board. And we're just going to pull it across and continue lacing back and forth. And each time we do that, we're pulling it tight to remove any of the wrinkles. And I'm going to tie off the end again because I've reached the end of that string. Oops, I got tangled up there. Okay, we're going to flip it over, and we see we still have some wrinkles, so we're going to continue to lace it, repeating this process a couple more times. So I've repeated the process 2 or 3 more times, and just basically enough so that when I flip over the piece, it is now wrinkle-free, okay? And we want to make sure the fabric is nice and tight. And at this point, we can gather up our frame, and we should be able to just place the piece in how we like it, and you can kind of turn it, position it the way you want it, okay? I've also cut an extra piece of mat board to the same size, and I'm going to use that as kind of just a back piece to help secure it in place. Okay, now I can move the tabs. And there we are. You have your finished embroidery and it's ready to hang.